Mickey 17 is the latest addition to Bong Joon-Ho's growing and impressive oeuvre. On a more personal note, it's one of the movies I was looking forward to the most this year, right behind Superman. Because I mean, of course. Like most people, I was introduced to Bong Joon-Ho's directorial works through Parasite. After watching that, I checked out Snowpiercer, and oh my god, that movie might even be better than Parasite. I don't know, I can't decide, they're both really good, but point is, he's an awesome filmmaker. As you can imagine, when word spread of a new Bong Joon-Ho film, I was pretty intrigued. When the movie was first announced, for the longest time all we had was that screenshot of Robert Pattinson emerging from some sort of radioactive fleshlight. Kinda like how all we knew about The Whale for a while was that one image of Brendan Fraser. Yet even still, I was excited because of the deets behind the upcoming project. Another Bong Joon-Ho directed science fiction film based on a novel? Well, that combo worked wonders last time, so hell yeah! Count me in, let's do this! Did Mickey 17 live up to the hype? I'm sorry to say folks, but Bong's latest flick is not nearly an absolute bonger like his other works, okay? Though that's not to say it's a bad film by any means. I mean, I haven't seen all of his films, but from what I have seen, none of them have come close to sucking, including this one. I will, however, admit that Mickey 17 was the most disappointing and mediocre of the bunch. I don't know, man. I mean, even saying that feels like blasphemy. There's a lot to like about Mickey 17, a lot of objectively good qualities that I'll be sure to point out in this video. In saying that though, there's also just so many blunders and missteps that either left me feeling unsatisfied, or worse, took me out of the film completely. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just outspoken on this film. I haven't seen anyone else's takes on it aside from my friend, who was just like, and to be honest, I am in 100% agreement. That was my first thought upon exiting the cinema. Which is a shame because I really wanted to like this film way more, but I digress. That about summarises my initial thoughts on the film, so it's about time we started delving into the juicy details. In this video I'll be covering both the pros and cons of Mickey 17. Before I proceed, fair warning, there's going to be major spoilers for the movie from this point forward, so if you haven't seen it, watch at your own discretion. You have been warned. Almost 4 decades from now, in the year 2054, humanity is now capable of space travel and planetary colonization. One individual is quite eager to conquer the stars. A man named Kenneth Marshall, played by Mark Ruffalo, an egotistical, self-obsessed, smarmy politician who, after losing his second election, aims to take over the snow planet of Niflheim, creating, in his words, a pure white planet, of which he will be the leader of. Don't worry, he's referring to the snow. At least I hope so. Marshall's followers, alongside other people who just want to get off Earth all the same, sign up to join the expedition. One of the latter being our title protagonist, Mickey Barnes, played by Robert Pattinson. Having gone into financial trouble from a business gone belly up, Mickey signs up for the program in hopes of fleeing aggressing loan sharks, specifically requesting to be brought on as an expendable. Disappointingly, the job doesn't involve joining Sylvester Stallone and his ragtag group of gung-ho gunmen, rather being subjected to dangerous jobs and tasks that will inevitably result in death. For research purposes, of course. Fun times. Upon death, being replaced by an identical clone with the same memories. Rinse and repeat for many years to come. Cloning is quite a controversial practice in this film's universe, what of all the moral and ethical questions surrounding it. Thankfully, Marshall's interstellar expedition operates out of Earth's jurisdiction, so he gets away with all the exploitation just fine. Mickey is the only expendable on board the ship, as no one in their right mind would agree to do this job, except Mickey, who didn't read the job description. Oops. So he goes on to die and respawn for a number of years, being afflicted with diseases, trapped in space, among other pleasantries. On the plus side, he ends up falling in love with Nosha, a security officer on board the ship and the only person who genuinely seems to actually care about Mickey's well-being, providing emotional support and much needed company during these stressful circumstances. On a routine exploration of Niflheim, Mickey ends up falling through the ice, coming face to face with these weird bug aliens, who oddly enough end up saving him. Returning to the ship, Mickey finds that his 18th clone has already been created, a clone who attempts to murder him on sight, as multiples are highly illegal. Fortunately, Mickey 18 doesn't kill 17, but now the two are left wondering what to do about their newfound predicament. And that's pretty much the setup for Mickey 17. But you know, part of the reason why Mickey 17 is disappointing in my opinion is because the premise is so freaking interesting. The idea of being created just to die and the effect that would have not only on you but the people around you, to the point where people barely consider you a human. more a commodity than anything. It's a really cool concept that is kind of touched on, but not to its full potential. We get a glimpse of it in certain scenes, and whenever we do, it's some of the best parts of the film, but unfortunately there's just so many pitfalls that get in the way of this interesting idea that end up taking away from any impact it could have potentially had. Anyways, we'll get into all of that shortly. First off, let's cover the pros of Mickey 17. Right off the bat, I would be remiss not to mention the brilliant cinematography on display here. Cinematographer Darius Khondji outdoes himself once again with a series of sweeping wide shots immersing you in the epicness of space while also bringing the camera in close whenever on the ship. The kind of shots you'd expect from a sci-fi flick, and I'm happy to say that they're executed well in this movie. Though none of this should really come as a surprise if you're familiar at all with Darius Khondji's other works. The same genius mind behind other works like Uncut Gems and Seven. Not the first time working with our boy Bong either, the two having worked together on Okja a few years back. Not my favourite Bong film, but you know, it's still pretty good, and you can bet well shot. There's this one moment which I absolutely have to talk about because it blew me away when I first saw it in the cinema. About a third of the way into the film, we momentarily cut to the past, showcasing the events leading up to Mickey's crappy situation. In one scene, we see the very moment where Mickey arrives to sign up for the expendable job, before being interrupted by a news reporter asking him if he supports Kenneth Marshall. Mickey kinda just stands there looking confused before being abruptly shoved aside by one of Marshall's supporters who begs on camera to be let aboard. While all of this is happening, there's just a loud ass storm occurring outside, and we get this breathtaking worm's eye view shot showing this massive winding staircase packed with people, all the while the storm rages on right next to them. Splicing that with the Marshall supporters' pathetic simping, and you've got a scene that is just so maddening to take in all at once, which I think is the point. A failed politician taking his flock into outer space is pretty insane. Well, at least it's insane now. Maybe in a few years it won't be as insane, given the way things are going, but right now it's pretty insane. And this whole scene encapsulates the utter chaos that is to come from these crazy circumstances. I could keep gushing, but you get the point. Another thing I really liked about Mickey 17 was Mickey 17. And Mickey 18 for that matter. Mickey Barnes as a character was probably the best part about the movie, as it should be, right? I mean, the film was named after him, so it would have been DOA if he was underwhelming. Thankfully that isn't the case here, at least mostly anyways, which is in no small part due to Robert Pattinson's excellent performance. The dude has been killing it recently, and Mickey 17 is yet another addition to his growing list of noteworthy performances. Here, Pattinson plays a rather timid, meek and mild-mannered character in Mickey, a man who takes life's punches with seemingly little pushback or protest. Mickey has resigned himself to his current lot in life, and his lack of self-care or affirmation is mirrored in the way other characters treat him. Throughout the movie, Mickey is constantly otherized and treated as a tool in furtherance of research or personal gain. This is no better seen than with Kai, a woman who initially seems to care for Mickey, acting sympathetic towards his plight, shouting down the people exploiting him, only to eventually realise that she is just down bad, and wants to jump his bones desperately, even asking to borrow one of Mickey's from Nosha after finding out there are two of them. She is, in effect, no better than the people who treat him like a lab rat, failing to acknowledge his humanity just like everyone else. It's this very point that strengthens Mickey's romance with Nosha. Going back to Mickey's current situation, at first it doesn't appear to bother him much, at least until we cut to the past and start seeing glimpses of Mickey's true feelings and insecurities. See, one day during an ordinary car ride, Mickey pressed a random red button and soon after his mom got in a car crash. It's this plot point that brings the most emotion out of Mickey, feeling guilty despite not knowing whether he was even to blame in the first place. It's also what makes the relationship between 17 and 18 pretty compelling. Unlike 17, 18 is a lot more confident and outgoing, which works to his benefit and a lot of the time to his detriment. At one point casually deciding, you know what, fuck it, let's just kill Kenneth Marshall. Why not? Regardless, it's a completely new side to the character, both to the audience and to Mickey himself, demonstrating his potential to overcome his shy pushover attitude. This is capped off towards the end of the movie where 17 and 18 discuss their mother's passing. 17 claims that everything that has happened to them has been the result of karma from pressing that mysterious red button all those years ago, to which 18 aptly responds with, "You're still going on about that shit? You realise it wasn't your fault, right?" Mickey is quite literally telling himself what he's needed to hear for so many years now. This scene would go on to be a defining moment for Mickey, informing his newfound confidence after the climax. Or at least it would be if not for the crappy ending. But I digress. Point is, I liked Mickey as a character. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, the film was kind of funny-ish at times, I suppose. At least I thought so. I feel like I'm the only one who found it somewhat funny because my cinema was dead silent. There was zero laughs throughout the duration of the movie. Hell, barely even a grunt or sniffle even. It's actually kind of awkward holding back my snickers as to not interrupt the silence. This movie is supposed to be a dark comedy, but to be honest, I found it more disturbing and thought-provoking than funny. I'm guessing the audience that I was with thought the same. That would be the best case scenario because the alternative is them just being bored out of their minds. Anyways, enough waffling. It's about time we discuss the cons. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Oh boy, this is one of the points I was dreading talking about, but it's pretty much impossible to ignore given how overt it is, and how much it will inform your experience of this movie. So Bong Joon-Ho has never exactly been subtle with messaging in his films. It doesn't take a genius to realise that they all have somewhat of a rebellious streak across the board. Fuck your corporations, fuck the class divide, fuck your corrupt leaders. Messages that will resonate with people and that pretty much everyone can get behind. To be honest, the obvious in-your-face messaging is hardly a negative. There's no BS with Bong films, you know exactly what he's trying to say, so you don't have to worry about subtext getting lost in translation. Look, the reason I'm saying all this is because I don't want you to misunderstand me. I don't have a problem with messaging, themes or subtext in film. I mean, I don't see how you can enjoy the medium without it. Mickey 17 even taps into that same pool of ideas that I just mentioned, which I don't have a problem with at all. Well, aside from one big exception. You see, there is this one lingering allegory throughout the film that really takes you out of the experience. Let me just put it like this. Kenneth Marshall, the main antagonist of the film, is an egomaniacal, self-obsessed and outright stupid politician who uses memes and slogans over policy to win over a cult-like following of people who all wear red baseball caps with his signature slogan embroidered on top. Followers whom he regularly scams and exploits, getting away with it all due to his false promises and sexy generic platitudes. Does this remind you of anyone? You know, call me crazy, but it sounds like a certain orange man adorned with a rigor mortis looking face, but hey, maybe I'm just imagining things. But in all seriousness, out of curiosity, I looked up, and full disclosure, it should be noted that Bong Joon-Ho has gone on record saying that Kenneth Marshall wasn't directly inspired by The Living Orange. Just putting that out there. However, I'm gonna be honest, I just don't believe in one bit. Like, based on what I have described, especially with how Marshall's followers look and act, there's no freaking way there was zero inspiration. No freaking way. Even Mark Ruffalo's mannerisms and delivery sound eerily like you-know-who. No matter what, you're gonna be reminded of his existence when watching, completely ruining the appeal of sci-fi. Losing yourself in a futuristic setting whilst remaining grounded because of the problems and issues the world and characters deal with, analogous to current day struggles. It's my favourite genre because it allows me to temporarily escape modern day horseshit whilst not being completely ignorant of the underlying problems we still face. That's not the case here in Mickey 17, as any substantive moments are constantly being interrupted by Mark Ruffalo performing an SNL skit. And that's not me crapping on Mark Ruffalo, I like him as an actor. I just don't think this impressionist approach was the right direction for the character. But on top of all that, it's just so exhausting and mentally draining having to hear about you-know-who 24/7. I'm sure you guys feel the same, so let's move on. Another reason why this film wasn't anywhere near as good as it could have been is the ungodly amounts of bloat. Seriously man, this movie has a hard time narrowing down its focus on a single theme or objective, to the point where it starts feeling scatterbrained, especially in the third act. Throughout the majority of the movie, Mickey is kept in the bullseye being the primary focus of the film, which should be the case, right? Well, it is right until we're introduced to the Creepers, the mysterious aliens who end up saving Mickey from death, resulting in the plot actually happening in the first place. After a scene in which a creeper baby accidentally comes aboard the ship, the film moves away from Mickey for a while, in favour of focusing in on the aliens and the moral and ethical questions that come with it. The theme of immigration and whether or not the people on board have a right to live on their land. Kenneth Marshall's bloodlust and desire to assert petty dominance over them, as well as his wife's desire to make sauce with their tails for some reason. Even during the freaking ending of the film, the movie reminds us of a desperate desire to make sauce, which is just like, why? If I had a penny for every time a Bong film featured a crazy woman who wanted to turn obscure creatures into food, I'd have 2 pennies, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. And it's not just the aliens either. Sometimes the movie is about Kenneth Marshall and what a tyrant he is. At one point the movie becomes a crime drama where Mickey's best friend is trying to avoid a shady loan shark. The movie feels all over the place, and the consequence of that is Mickey being pushed to the wayside, which lessens the impact he has on the overall plot, and takes away from what the movie should be about, which is the ethical and moral dilemma of cloning. There are plenty of movies with multiple undertones you could read into. The difference is that they don't lose sight of the primary focus of the film, whereas Mickey 17 does, pretty much nuking its potential to be more effective. Finally, the largest con that really solidified this flick into mediocre status for me was the subpar ending. Didn't exactly leave a great impression upon leaving the cinema. To summarise, Kenneth Marshall has a baby creeper held hostage, with tons of other creepers surrounding the ship preparing to attack. 17 and 18 are sent down to the surface in order to kill as many creatures as possible to get more tails for the stupid ass source. Couldn't let us forget about that one, could you? Instead, the two of them find the creeper's leader and start communicating with them, telling them to flee as Marshall plans to release a deadly gas which will finish them all off. Long story short, Marshall rescues the creeper baby, gives it back to the mom, and Mickey 18 sacrifices himself, killing Marshall in the process. The day is saved, the humans begin a healthy dialogue with the aliens, and happily ever after. That doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, it's the events that come soon after which completely kill the film's momentum. For starters, Nosha becomes a politician, winning the election in a landslide victory and soon after ousting all of Marshall's remaining supporters from the committee. I just gotta ask, why? Why would she do any of this? While it's true that she was no fan of Marshall from the very beginning, she never showed any inclination or desire to switch career paths. It comes out of left field and feels so unsatisfying the way she just immediately wins everything. Like, if you're gonna go this route, which I don't think was a good idea, but if you're gonna go this route, at least leave things open to interpretation. Maybe she does win the election, let's say, but she has trouble gaining the support in the committee, having to fight an uphill battle but being optimistic about her odds. That would have at least been somewhat inspiring. To be honest, they just didn't need to do this in the first place. It doesn't make sense for Nasha's character, and it comes off as preachy and forced. Hey, you know that character you like? Well, she's in charge now, and so everything's gonna be fine. Bye. I'm struggling to find the words, but the point is it's way too perfect for its own good. The trend of hastily wrapping things up continues with Mickey's friend beating one of the loan shark's goons in a fight, winning a legal battle for his protection or something along those lines as well. It really feels like the writers suddenly remembered all the plot points they introduced and were like, oh shit, quickly wrapping them up in the last couple of minutes. By far the worst part of the finale is the scene with Mickey. Mickey goes back to the cloning room one last time, only to discover Marshall's wife in the process of creating a new Kenneth Marshall. When I first saw the scene, it was a huge mindfuck. How did she escape custody and get Marshall's biological data? Who knows, but man does it get you on the edge of your seat. Mickey stands there frozen while Marshall's wife taunts him. Thankfully, he finally grows some balls, telling him to fuck off. And that's when we realise it was all a dream. Yep. I mean, dude, talk about copping out, man. During the most pivotal moment too. This is supposed to be the first step in Mickey's newfound confidence, and it happens in a freaking dream of all things. It would have been way more ballsy to have the scene actually play out. Imagine how poetic it would be to have both Mickeys finishing off Marshall for good, with 17 actually demonstrating that he isn't a pushover anymore, stopping the machine before the cloning can finish and placing Marshall's wife back into custody. Instead, what we got was a climax for the character that feels pretty underwhelming, and a big contributor as to why I left the cinema with a distinct impression of That about summarises my thoughts on Mickey 17. I know I've probably sounded overly negative in this video, but like I said earlier, there's a lot of genuinely good qualities to appreciate here. On a technical level, it's bloody amazing. However, the few highs that there are just lessened by the lows, which really drag this film down a notch. Especially with that absolutely crap ending, which, you know, just feels like a homework assignment done at the 11th hour. With that being said, that's all I have to say for this video. Like if you liked, dislike if you dislike, subscribe for more quality content, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.